Should you hire a photography agent? That's the question we're solving today. And just so you know, I'm not talking theory. I've actually been on both sides of the coin, where I had an agent and also where I do my own prospecting and my own sales. So everything I talk about in this video is my own personal experience and other people I've talked to as well. So it doesn't necessarily apply in all cases, but it's just my personal experience. So I guess first we need to define terms. What the heck even is a photography agent? So there's two different types and styles in my opinion. So the first type is the traditional photography agent. And this is somebody who's essentially selling to clients on your behalf. They're kind of like a sales manager. So they do prospecting, negotiation, reach out, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, the other side of the coin is a business manager. And this is like, think Scooter Braun, right? For Justin Bieber. So this is somebody who has maybe 2, 3, 4 clients max, and they're basically running your entire business, your accounting, your invoicing, your sales, your logistics. They're handling your travel schedule, like all that kind of stuff. So that's more on the business manager side of things. And to be honest, if you're watching this video, you're probably not quite at the level yet where you would even be in the market for somebody like that. So you're probably in the market for that traditional photography agent. So now that we know what an agent is, now the question becomes, why would you want one or even need one? Now I'm going to give you a list of a few different reasons. Now keep in mind, all these reasons are like best case scenario, ideal scenario. And in a lot of ways, these don't always pan out the way that I'm describing it, but this is kind of how agencies usually sell themselves. So the first thing they do is they prospect for you. They do outbound reach out. They try to find deals for you, jobs for you, all that kind of stuff. Number two is once you have people coming in, they actually negotiate deals on your behalf. So you don't have to do any of the negotiation, be the bad guy, all that kind of stuff. Another thing that goes along with the negotiation is because you have representation, a lot of times you can actually charge higher rates just because you have a higher perceived value when you're represented by an agent. They also have a pretty vast knowledge of the industry, the going rates, standards, what kind of budgets companies are typically working with, all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of cut the learning curve when you just have a normal agent. They can also manage all of your business connections. So like if they're doing outbound, they'll continue following up on clients for you, or if you have inbound leads or whatever, they'll continue following up for you. And lastly, and most importantly, is when you do a client project and they haven't paid you yet, they will definitely be on the client's butt to get you paid ASAP because their paycheck is really reliant on if you get paid or not. So overall, it sounds like a great deal. You don't have to do sales. You basically just show up and do the deal and you're good to go, right? Let's get into kind of the part that isn't so great, and that is the payment structure. So let me just get this out of the way at the top. If you are looking into an agency and they're charging a few $100, even a few $1,000 as like a startup fee to get you started, it's probably a scam, and just stay away and don't deal with it. So the real way that most agencies operate is off of a commission structure, meaning that you only pay them once you actually get paid yourself. Now that sounds great in theory, but you also got to keep in mind that a lot of these agencies have a lot of clients. So they're going to prioritize the ones that are actively making them money, which if you are a new client, probably in most cases, you're not going to be making them money. But I'll talk about that in just a little bit. The second aspect of the commission structure, which is actually really great, is that they're incentivized to get you better deals, like higher paid deals, right? Because the more you make, the more they make off of the commission. So in essence, they're going to try to get the best deal possible for you. So now that you have a decent idea of what an agent is, why you would even want one, and what the payment structure is, let's dive into my personal story that I had with an agent, and maybe I'll shed some light on some of these things in a real world example. So once upon a time, about 3 years ago, I was in the market for hiring an agent. So I hired this agent and I was sold the dream, right? They would do all my sales, all my prospecting, all my negotiations. I didn't have to touch it. All they would do is say, hey, you're working on this job, this date, and I would collect a paycheck and it would be all good. Sounds like the dream, right? Well, actually there's another side of it, the payment structure side. And I know it sounds great. You're paying on commission. You don't have to pay out of pocket, but it actually wasn't the greatest for me personally at the time, or basically any creator in my opinion. So I'll just walk you through the deal structure that they gave me, which had absolutely zero room for negotiation. I actually tried to negotiate it and they wouldn't go for it. So basically they would take 20% of every single deal that they initiated, meaning if they sent outbound emails, messages, whatever, right? They would take 20% of it. And they would also take 10%, which is a pretty decent amount, of any inbound project that I got, meaning if it came off of somebody just randomly emailed me or off my Instagram or whatever, right? They got 10% of, even if I personally negotiated it myself. So the way they track this is by giving me an agency email where it was like nash@theagencyname.com. I'm not going to reveal the agency because I don't want to throw flack at them, but basically any inbound email that I would get on that account, they would count towards that 10% commission. So another thing I wasn't super stoked about is that all the invoices were actually sent by the agency using their name versus by my own personal company, meaning that the company that I was working with, or the brand or the resort, would actually pay the agency first, and then they would pay me out minus the commission that I had to pay. So, I mean, it sounds good because I don't have to manage the money, but in my opinion, I would rather always be in charge of the money flow, and I don't want to have the middleman as much as possible. But, you know, that's kind of the price you pay when working with an agent. And here's the kicker. This is the worst part about the whole thing, is that I was locked in for an entire year with that commission structure, meaning that any deal they got me, I was paying 20%, which I was fine with because I didn't have to do sales. But the inbound leads, I was paying 10% on every single inbound lead I got for the rest of the entire year, which I was not super excited about, but I ended up signing the dotted line. So that kind of sets the stage, but here's the problem. Over the course of that entire year, I closed a total of 0 outbound leads. And it wasn't because the sales process was bad, it was actually because the agency sent 0 outbound messages or emails or any of that kind of stuff. They literally did nothing. So all the deals that I did get were actually inbound leads, number one, would have gotten anyways, and number two, had to pay a 10% commission on. Now, I will say they did help me negotiate, but like their version of negotiation was basically I was CC'd in on the email and they would text me and say, hey, this is the client's budget, this is how much they have for the project, are you down for it, or what are your thoughts? I would text them back, say, no, we want to go higher or whatever, or accept the project, and they basically parrot back my response to the client, and that was essentially it. So I totally could have done that myself. Now, I will say on the positive side, I think having an agent actually gave me a slightly higher perceived value. So instead of charging $5,000, I maybe could have charged like $6,500 or something like that. But after I pay out their commission, it really kind of balances out. So I didn't make that much more off of it. So all that to say, I ended up firing the agency after the 1-year contract expired because I just couldn't justify paying a commission fee for something I'm already doing. And they weren't even getting me new deals anyway, so it wasn't really even that helpful for me. But the problem was that gave me only one option if I wanted to continue to pursue my career in photography, and that was I had to learn how to do sales myself. And I'll be completely honest with you, I did not want to do sales. In fact, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be creative, I wanted to shoot, I wanted to do all the fun stuff, and to me, sales didn't seem like something that was actually fun to do. That's why I wanted to pawn it off to the agent in the first place, but then that didn't end up panning out. So here I am stuck having to learn sales if I want to make this a career. So now that being said, the money, the time, the effort that I spent learning how to do sales, which again wasn't really something I wanted to learn how to do, I just had to learn how to do it out of necessity, was the single biggest ROI on my time, energy, money that I have ever gotten in my entire business, like far beyond any camera or drone that I've ever bought. Plus, it's given me the opportunity to brand myself in a way that having an agent couldn't. So I can choose which clients I want, how much I charge, what my terms are. And these are all things that I couldn't really negotiate with the agent. And on top of that, I don't have to pay out the commission fee. Plus, and this is a little secret, once you learn how to do sales, you can actually train other professional salespeople how to do your specific process, so you don't have to do sales anymore. They can do it all for you, and you pay a much lower commission fee than you would have if you had an agency. Plus, you can just scale way more because you can just hire more salespeople. So overall, this allows you to keep a much higher percentage of the profits, meaning you have a much better margin. So in my opinion, at least from my personal experience, I would much rather learn the sales skills myself than to hire an agency that may or may not even get me jobs and could drop me like a bad habit at literally any moment. And then I'm stuck at square one where, again, I either have to hire another agent or I have to learn how to do sales myself. And that's honestly what I help my creator clients do. So we help established creators work with their dream clients, get paid the budgets they deserve to get paid, and build businesses that have 6-figure run rates using a process I call precision prospecting, which is essentially just my sales process, without having to rely on social media or expensive ads or, yes, even agents. So if you're interested in learning how we can implement that in your business so you can have a scalable and repeatable sales process to work with your dream clients, then go ahead and check out the link in the description below. I actually have a link to schedule a call with a member of my team. We'll talk with you, chat, see if you're a fit for the Page You Create program, where we'll literally teach you how to do that so you can start working with your dream clients and get paid the rates that you deserve to get paid. And in the meantime, if you want to check out my sales framework, I actually have a video on the channel that you can check out exactly how to approach the sales framework and learn how to do sales for your own business. So I hope this video was super valuable for you. If so, give it a massive like and subscribe to the channel, because we got a whole bunch of other stuff on this channel that'll be super valuable for you. And I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Peace.